The legacy of explorer Christopher Columbus in the last couple of decades has been fraught with controversy. President Trump has now stepped into the fray as more cities and states eliminate Columbus Day from their calendars or combine it with Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous peoples deserve lots of holidays because of everything they've been through and all they've done to build this country. So this is not about being disrespectful to them. It's about being disrespectful to Italian Americans. The president says he is going to bring the explorer back from the ashes to greatness. To talk about this latest move, we welcome Andre DiMino, the president of the Italian American One Voice Coalition, a friend of this program and a friend of mine. Good to have you on, Andre. Good morning.
Good to see you, Ken, especially with this good news.
Yeah, it is good news. And you know what? I saw a very obnoxious U.S. World News and World Report story that was mocking, like, oh, he's bringing Columbus Day out of the ashes, even though it never went anywhere. It's like as if they have their heads in the sand and they're living on some other planet and they haven't noticed that Columbus Day has been chiseled away for the last 30, 40 years, little by little till it disappears. It's disappeared in a lot of communities around the country already.
Yeah, no, we've been battling this. It's 11 states and dozens of cities, towns, and school districts that have eliminated the holiday. So we needed something like this with such a clear, concise, and definitive statement from the president to say that Columbus Day is going to be preserved.
Andre, is there a defining time when Columbus Day started getting the bad rap? Was it like the 1970s when they started to push it?
Yeah, it really started back in that time. But really, when it really took off tremendously was after the book that came out by Howard Zinn, where he was a self-declared anarchist and Marxist and wanted to destroy our country. And he did that by writing a history book that was full of falsehoods, not only about Columbus, but also of our founding fathers, to try to denigrate this country. And it's really, since then, people have been brainwashed with this stuff about Columbus and the founding fathers. It's just not true.
And ironically, the country where Columbus landed, which would be in the Dominican Republic, right? That country honors him. You go down there for Columbus Day, you think it's the 4th of July here. It is, because I've been there for Columbus Day. It is a huge celebration. They're the people who Zinn in the book says they were treated like slaves, they were enslaved, they were beaten, they were raped, they were given infection. And I mean, were there incidents where people died of infection that maybe their bodies weren't used to? Yes, but it didn't wipe out the whole island because clearly the people there today are descendants of those people. So it didn't kill everybody. And then, of course, there's evidence now by exhuming some of the bodies of people who predated Columbus's arrival. They died of some of the same diseases that they accused the Europeans of bringing. So there's a good chance that because there was shipping that happened, we think Columbus discovered it. It's a good chance other ships may have landed there before, just didn't realize where they were and go back to Europe and say, hey, guess what? We found a rock in the middle of the sea. So there's a good chance that those diseases were there prior. It's just that it didn't fit the narrative. What do you make of President Trump's declaration with regard to Columbus? Do you think that this will have weight, or do you think a lot of states are just going to ignore it?
Well, we think it's going to help us a lot in our battle. At the Italian American One Voice Coalition, we work around the country fighting this. We've gotten back in the Rockaway schools, which I discussed with you on another program, and in other locations in New Jersey and St. Louis and other places. So now having this real clear statement from the president is important. But also, Ken, you got to realize that there were Senate and House bills that were introduced to eliminate the federal holiday. So we're sure now that at least for 4 years, if those bills make it to the president's desk, he's going to veto them.
Right. Amen to that. And it's just so disrespectful. What really gets me about this, Andre, is there are currently 4 national holidays for indigenous or native peoples, and they deserve 40 as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
There's also the entire month of November for indigenous peoples. So it's not like indigenous peoples don't have a day to honor them. Yet Italian Americans have that many. Zip, zilch, nada for nearly 20 million people in the United States who trace at least some heritage back to Italy. That is the disrespect. If all these people are so for getting rid of Columbus Day, how about they recommend a new day and say, I'll tell you what, we'll make it Italian American Heritage Day on this date. They haven't even done that. It's just about tearing down statues and eliminating Columbus from the curriculum. When, listen, was Columbus a flawless man? No. But as I pointed out, I talked about this yesterday on the program, Andre. I'm a gay man. I don't make a secret about it. We know that Martin Luther King was a Baptist minister in the Baptist church to this day. You can't be gay. You're not allowed to be gay. You can't have gay marriage. So that means that Martin Luther King would have been anti-me. Should I go demanding that MLK Jr. boulevards be pulled down all over the country and that his face be chiseled off the mountain in near Mount Rushmore and that he not be honored in school? Of course not, because he, like us, were imperfect human beings. And at the time, the state of belief in America was that being gay was an anomaly and it was not normal. That's what America believed. I am not horrified by that. It's part of the reality of life. Grow up, put your big boy pants on. And the reality was Europeans used the term salvatus for, which means saved. So when you see that Columbus may have used the word savages, that did not mean like we translate it as animals. Savage meant somebody who they baptized. That's what it meant. It was a religious term. So the fact is, these ignorant people and people like Zinn don't know or don't care to know because it doesn't fit the narrative because he was a communist. And then people are taught in school, Columbus bad, indigenous people good. We agree, indigenous people are good, but stop bashing Columbus.
No, absolutely. In fact, we actually have an indigenous person himself who traces his lineage back to the Taino tribe that has written 4 books defending Columbus. His name is Rafael Ortiz. And just like you said about the Dominican Republic, he's from Puerto Rico, and there they celebrate Columbus. He's actually his name is in their national anthem. And, we've made an alliance with the Native American Guardians Association because they're fighting the cancel culture, taking away names like the Redskins and the Chiefs and so forth. So we're supporting them in fighting cancel culture, and they support us in preserving Columbus Day. And like you said, let's celebrate the indigenous people right along with them. We should strive for unity and not this division by trying to take away one holiday for another.
100%. And it's very rare that you see indigenous people trying to tear down Columbus. They just want to get along. I mean, the ones when I lived in South Florida, Andre, the Seminole tribe of Florida was huge. They controlled the whole middle part of the state. And Florida has had probably one of the best symbiotic relationships with Native Americans of any state that I've seen. Uh, Partially, it's a lot of this. The Seminole tribe was allowed to, as we would say in Italian, scarol. The Seminole tribe was allowed to have gambling on their land. And, the state and the federal government said, it's your land. You do what you want. And guess what? You've heard of Hard Rock, right? So the Hard Rock of England. Well, the Seminoles co-owned the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel in Hollywood, Florida. That's on their land. And they did so well with it and made so much money. They bought the whole Hard Rock Corporation. They're one of the wealthiest tribes on the planet. So they're quite happy with the way things are going. And you know what? They deserve it. They were here first before us. God bless them. I hope they're trillionaires. But you're right. The symbiotic relationship is what has to be. Instead of saying, you can't have a day, we need a day, let's all have a day. Let's celebrate together.
That's right, Ken, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that unity, and we're so happy now that President Trump has come out definitively with this statement. We hope that it's going to help us in our battles across the country, and we're going to continue to strive to do what's right for Italian American heritage and culture. But, I have to say, Columbus Day is not just for Italians, although we've really taken it, but really for all Americans, because it was really Columbus that united the world, that brought the world together and brought Western culture here. So not only is it for Italian Americans, but it's actually for all Americans.
And so that people realize there's evidence that Columbus I think his family, or he married a woman who was Portuguese. His children were named Portuguese names. He lived in Spain a chunk of his life. That's why the king and queen of Spain, Isabella and Ferdinand, financed his journey. And there's a good chance, even though there's evidence that he was Catholic, there's a good chance that he was of Jewish roots. So that he is very multicultural. Christopher Columbus was, he wasn't like off the boat from Genoa, like a lot of people think. There's a lot of mix because Genoa was a port city, and you had people who stopped in Genoa from Asia, from Africa. So Genoa was a mix of cultures. It was a very international city, and that's where his family was from. But again, Spanish, Portuguese, Jewish, all mixed in the man who is Christopher Columbus. So he wasn't this white Catholic Italian that so many have been so disrespectful toward. Andre DiMino, I always love having you on. Please come back over and over again. And the fact that you do what you do and you get people shouting in your face and you stand firm for Italian Americans, God bless you for what you do. We appreciate you all the time. President of the Italian American One Voice Coalition. Thanks for being with us, Andre.
Thank you, Ken. Take care.
You bet, my friend. Have a good day.